Hello, today we're going to teach you how to make a cascading Phalaenopsis orchid bouquet. This is very popular this year and we would like to take you through the process. We will be using potted orchids, approximately 10 stems, and as we have mentioned, this ensures that the Phalaenopsis orchids are incredibly fresh, as well as it ensures that you can reuse the orchid pots once you have finished. You can watch our video that will be linked in the description below about how to help your orchids bloom again in approximately 3 months. So you are not being wasteful and you are not in fact hurting or damaging the flower in any way. We will also be using a bouquet holder that we will be pre-wetting. We will need a few instruments, some standard scissors, some satin ribbon, some floral scissors, and these are specifically designed not to crush or injure the stem whatsoever, and some wire cutting scissors, some 24 gauge wire, some knives and instruments. We will be also using Israeli ruscus to fill in the gaps and to form the grid structure internally in the bouquet, and some potted ivy. When you are hydrating your bouquet holder, just put it on the surface of the water and let it drown in the water by itself. Do not force it down because that will cause air pockets to form inside, and if a stem gets caught in an air pocket, it will dehydrate. So we are going to begin by discussing the importance of creating an internal grid structure. If you were to insert the stem by itself without creating a base with a grid formation, the stem will fall out since it is not secured, as you can see. So it is important to create some sort of webbing internally by placing the flowers in a grid formation, and that will keep it tightly locked in so that the flowers do not fall out during your ceremony and cause you embarrassment. So you want to cause and create an interlocking of stems. This will ensure that the flowers will sit tightly and rely on one another for support and not fly out of the oasis. Another important thing for you to remember is that here, as you can tell, we are using full stems of orchids. We are not putting them on a wire. And the reason for this is that this will ensure freshness. If you were to put the orchids on a wire and run your ceremony for approximately 6 hours, they would wilt and start to look like this. This, of course, is a very unflattering appearance, especially if your entire bouquet consists of orchids. So this will ensure longevity and allow orchids to be longer lasting throughout your ceremony, so you do not have to worry. If you are worried about breaking them or simply damaging them, that's also not a concern. As long as you handle it gently, you should be absolutely fine. And the most important part is that your orchids will look beautiful throughout hours and hours of the day. As you can see, some orchids you will have to cut down into segments in order to allow for the shape to be met. We are inserting some of the shorter segments on the top in order to create the shape. If any orchid falls off its stem, you will be needing to create a water pack for it if you are intending to insert it through with a wire. So we will be putting the wire through the neck of the orchid, clamping the wire down, and then using some pre-wet cotton. This will create a water supply for the orchid so that it doesn't dehydrate. So wrap the cotton around the stem of the orchid and secure it with some flower tape. When you're finished, use the wire cutting scissors to cut it down to size and insert it into your bouquet. As mentioned, you will be needing to cut it down into segments in order to create the desired shape, as it will not be easy to use full-length orchid stems throughout the entire design. Adjust any flowers as necessary. As you can see, the shorter segments typically go towards the upper portion of the bouquet holder, with the cascading segments at the lower portion in order to create the falling, trailing effect. Then what we'll be using is Israeli ruscus. This will have an impact on the structure internally, as it will create a deeper, more voluminous grid inside. And it will also assist in covering the greenery of the oasis and hiding any of the gaps that are peering through beneath the flowers. Israeli ruscus is a great and inexpensive way to do this, while maintaining the natural look and keeping the orchids as the focal point of your bouquet, since the greenery is not too distracting. As mentioned, do feel free to adjust any flowers as you go along, and if you see any imperfections or asymmetry, just adjust it. As you can see, we've continued to use Israeli ruscus. We are aware that some brides simply do not like seeing greenery, but the ruscus serves a very important purpose. What we are trying to do is recreate the netting that you would see, for example, in a bird's nest, which is actually a perfect and sturdy structure. Inside, although it's not visible to the naked eye, you have a giant crisscross of stems. As you can see, I'm holding it up by the Phalaenopsis orchid, and nothing is falling out. That is due to the very rigorously and turgid interior of the bouquet holder. If you are to insert an additional stem and you find that you are having a hard time and it's difficult and you're forcing it, that means that your internal grid is complete. It shouldn't be easy for you to insert stems. It should be very difficult to ensure that the stems are firmly packed inside. This way, none of your flowers are going to fall out during the ceremony. And although some brides say that it is not aesthetically pleasing, I wish to say the opposite. It is more aesthetically pleasing because none of the oasis is visible, nor is the greenery visible from a distance or when you are facing the bouquet outward. Very little of it is peering out and is barely noticeable, but the structure is kept secure and firm without relying too much on expensive flowers to fill the gaps. Flowers that you wouldn't even see from underneath. So this is what the finished product looks like. An additional step we wish to take after you've finished securing all of the flowers is you can choose to add some ivy in order to create more of a cascading effect. Here we are using potted ivy, and as mentioned in a previous video, using the potted ivy is much better to ensure freshness, and of course the plant will continue to grow and grow, so you aren't destroying the plant. So here we are inserting some ivy at the bottom, and this creates additional trailing and cascading look that is very, very popular. This is what your finished product is going to look like. The final step is wrapping the handle, which we've been asked to demonstrate in a video. So we are going to proceed onto that process. The next and final step is to wrap the handle of your bouquet. What we're going to do is to ensure first that the handle is absolutely dry. The glue gun will not attach itself to a wet handle. Next, we're going to place the satin ribbon up against the handle. We're using one hand, but that is simply because we're a little bit more experienced. If you are uncertain that you can pull this off without damaging the bouquet, you might want to ask someone to hold it for you while you do this. Then we simply wrap the satin around the handle, like so. And make sure that it is firmly placed. Then we take the bottom portion and we start to curl it upwards. We are wrapping the handle really tightly, as you can see. And this can be very, very tricky. So as mentioned before, if you do not feel comfortable using one hand, you might wish to ask someone for help. The trick is to make sure that you're wrapping it evenly and tightly so that there aren't too many bumps or ridges in the wrapping. But don't be too concerned, since the handle is not a focal point and just simply helps the bouquet look more complete. So you simply proceed in wrapping and adding a little dollop of glue to the handle. Once you're beginning to reach the top of the bouquet holder, you just take it and wrap it around. Cut off the excess and wrap it a few times very firmly. Once again, if you find that you have too much excess, just simply cut it off. Tuck in the end piece of the satin ribbon inward and secure it with the glue gun. It is important to do this step after you've completed your bouquet and not prior to starting, because if you do it prior to assembling the flowers, chances are you will damage the satin while you're rotating the bouquet and assembling the flowers. So this way it allows for the handle to be cleaner, neater, and not crumpled up. This is the finished product. Hopefully you have learned how to create your own beautiful cascading bouquet with Phalaenopsis orchids. This is a very cost-efficient technique, and a florist may choose to quote you hundreds of dollars for this. Thank you for watching, and good luck.